Have you ever wondered how much it costs to travel Mongolia? Then this video is for you. We'll show you what you spend on accommodation, transportation,
food,
entertainment, food, the whole works.
A lot of it. We just spent 5.5 weeks in Mongolia. It is a beautiful country. It is a massive country and completely off the beaten path. So if you're interested in going somewhere where it's not very touristy, this is the right place for you. We visited the Gobi Desert. We took a tour of the highlights there, an 8-day tour, which was absolutely incredible.
For sure.
We did an 8-day tour to the Tsatan people, way up in the north of Mongolia. So we did some tours. We spent some time in the capital of Ulaanbaatar, explored there for a little bit.
We're now in Kozhikode Lake. We spent a few days here, a few days in Morun. So we did a bit of everything.
Over the 39 days that we spent here in Mongolia, we spent 2,450 euros between the two of us, which works out to 62.8 euros for the two of us per day. Pretty good budget, especially since we did some tours.
Yeah, we don't usually do tours. We're not that fond of them. But since it was so difficult to travel independently, especially, for example, to the Gobi Desert, it's pretty much impossible to travel independently. We decided to do some tours, and it cost a bit more. Compared to other countries, it's still very cheap, but that's what made our budget a bit more expensive.
Than usual.
Than usual.
And still, overall, it's pretty good.
Of the 2,450 euros we spent here, 38% went to food, which worked down to about 24 euros per day. In general, food is not that expensive here. We could have done it on a lot less per day. But when we were in Ulaanbaatar, we decided to eat out at a couple of more fancy places to have some more decent food.
Some vegetables.
Have some vegetables because vegetables are like non-existent here. So we could have done it probably on a bit less, but that's about what we spend, I think, in almost all the countries, around 35-40%. We like to go out once in a while for a more fancy dinner and have some wine and have some decent food.
And we didn't have much beers here. No. I do have to say, normally we spend quite a bit like drinking out. When we were in Mexico, it was like toot toot on the beach. There's no beach here, so drinking was kept to a minimum. That was mostly food, but like a better restaurant where they had some proper vegetables every now and then.
Yes.
Then accommodation cost us around 26% of our budget, working out to 16.5 euros per day for the both of us, which actually in Mongolia gets you quite a lot. More than other places we visited.
We mostly spent time in private rooms. We almost didn't sleep in any dorms. I think we spent 2 or 3 nights in a dorm. Our biggest expense here were the tours, which works out to about 26% or 16-17 euros per day. In reality, we spend actually a lot more on these tours per day, but we always attribute a bit of the expenses towards meals and towards accommodation, because otherwise it really screws up our statistics for our...
It's not realistic. I mean, you have to sleep every night anyway, and
Indeed. So if we spend, for example, 100 euros on one day on a tour, we will attribute maybe 15-16 euros to accommodation, and then another 15 to 20 euros on food, just to have like a good base of comparison between the countries as well, because otherwise the numbers start to make no sense at all.
For example, the Gobi Desert tour, we paid $440 per person for 8 days, which is like the cheapest tour, the cheapest decent value tour we could find.
Yeah.
We went with a tour agency called Golden Gobi. They run the Golden Gobi hostel in Ulaanbaatar. They're considered to be very good value for money, more targeted towards backpackers. You can go for a lot higher budgets. Maybe the accommodation will be a little bit more upscale. There will be some small differences.
In essence, you pretty much get sort of like the same tour. We went with one of the cheapest options that had really good reviews and really good value.
Yeah, they're very well rated. We recommend going with them. We had a beautiful tour in the Gobi Desert. We spent 8 days there with an incredible group of people. We had a great time. We saw some incredible landscapes.
It works out to less than 55 euros per person per day, so it's really good value for money. It includes transportation, water, food, accommodation, sightseeing, an English-speaking guide, a driver, everything.
The only thing that was not included was like small snacks, and the biggest cost for us.
You guys want vodka time?
Vodka time.
Vodka time.
Vodka.
We spend a bit of money on vodka.
So on
top of that, $55 or $60 per day. We also spend a little bit on like snacks and some vodka.
Yeah.
It's not that much, but...
No, it's not that much. What other tours did we do? We also went to visit the Tsatan, the reindeer people.
Yes.
We rode 2 days on horseback to get there. It's pretty remote. It's high up north. They're the last reindeer herders of Mongolia. Then we spent 2 nights sleeping with the family, living with the family, tending to their beautiful little reindeer. And then we came back again by horse track. All of that was included. Most of the expenses were included there as well. We paid $180 per person for a week.
7-day trip, including transportation from Morun. Everything was included, except for the lunch, which was not included.
Had to bring that for
we had to bring ourselves. We had to bring lunch for ourselves during the horse trek, which well, we just bought some bread and a pot of Nutella and some nuts just to...
Budget life.
Budget life.
What else is included in the entertainment and activities budget that we had is like some sightseeing costs in Ulaanbaatar. We went to a few palaces, a few museums. That's in there as well. And I think that'll be mostly it.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a lot more than we would spend on tours and activities in other countries because of the tours, but Mongolia is not that easy to travel by yourself. It's not, for independent travel, it's not easy. It's a bit difficult to explain why if someone's never been here.
I mean, there's no real good public transportation system.
We're not talking tourist infrastructure, we're just talking public transport in general.
You can get from Ulaanbaatar to the major cities pretty easily. That's okay. There's a couple of buses going every day. For example, to Murun up north, 3 buses a day, which is fairly easy to take. But once you get to Murun, it's really difficult to get somewhere. For example, we wanted to get to Tsaganur to reach the family, horse family, by public bus.
People,
But we had to wait 2 days for a bus to fill up. Coming back, it was also very difficult. It was only last minute that they were able to find the bus. We arrived back at 3 o'clock at night.
And there are hardly any roads here, let alone asphalted, paved roads outside of Ulaanbaatar. A lot of the roads in Mongolia are what they call natural roads, which is a very romanticized way of saying there ain't no road. It's just like
driving through a grass field or through rocks or whatever that is. It's like spending 12 hours in a washing machine.
Yeah, basically. And that's because Mongolia is super sparsely populated. It has 3 million people living here, while it is the 19th largest country on the planet.
And
1.5 million live in Ulaanbaatar. So the rest of the country is only 1.5 million people.
Nobody's living there.
Most of whom live a nomadic lifestyle. They get around on horseback.
Motorcycles. Some of them have their own cars, but mostly, motorcycles is most we've seen.
And that's what makes it, in combination with the very limited English that is spoken and the nomadic lifestyle, the fact there aren't that many like fixed settlements.
And they're not used to really catering to tourists when you get outside of the tourist agencies.
We heard of some people who did a Gobi tour desert. We heard of some people who did a Gobi desert tour by themselves. It is possible to rent a vehicle and a driver. It's also possible.
Instead of an organized tour, they just rented a driver and then told them where to go.
Yeah, told them where to go. You can also rent the car yourself, but that is even more expensive than renting a car with a driver.
Yeah, the price we've been quoted for renting a car with a driver is about $50, $60 to $70 around that per day per car. So it's not very expensive. If you want to rent a 4-wheel drive vehicle, you're paying $150 to $200 a day. So it's very expensive to rent yourself. What the logic is behind it, I don't know exactly, but it's the way it is. Maybe you could do like the Gobi Desert by yourself on a 7 or 8 day tour, but probably you will not be able to see the same amount of things. You will have to lose some time searching for food or from water. Even with the organized tour that we were on, we stopped in a village to buy some food and some water, but there was nothing. There was no meat, no vegetables, nothing for sale. So yeah, when they were able to contact some people who were in the neighborhood, other tour companies or other companies which are doing the same, and bought some vegetables off them. But if you're doing that by yourself, maybe you spend one whole day looking just for food and for water. Transportation worked out to about 3% per day or 60 euros in total, which is pretty much nothing because we didn't really take much transportation here. The only transportation we took was the bus from Ulaanbaatar up north to Murun, which cost us 25, 30 euros each and back.
And then a few buses in Ulaanbaatar.
And then a few small city buses.
Yeah.
All the other transportation is included in the tours that we did. The remaining 7% of our budget, or about 4 euros per day, was spent on a lot of other different things. We bought some sunscreen, shampoo. We bought 2 SIM cards, which cost 12 or 13 euros for 2 with 10 gigabytes of data. So that's pretty cheap as well. We highly recommend buying it because in general the Wi-Fi here is very bad. Half of the time it doesn't work, or there might be no electricity. And the 4G in general has been surprisingly good.
Surprisingly good. You can be in the middle of nowhere and suddenly it's like ping ping.
Yeah, we have even been in villages where like there was no electricity for the whole day, no running water, no toilets, but they still had really decent 4G coverage.
They had
it's
their
not
priorities.
perfect and it's like a bit wobbly. Sometimes it doesn't work that well, but in general it works pretty well. Alright, to summarize, we spent 2 weeks on a tour, which cost us a bit more than 1,000 euros, 1,100 euros. That's 14 days of travel on an organized tour. Everything was pretty much included. And the remainder of our time here, 25, 26 days, was a lot cheaper because we did them independently, and there we spent 1,200, 1,300 euros for those 26 days. So in general, Mongolia is very cheap to travel. It's a bit more difficult to travel on a really low budget because it's difficult to travel independently. We met some... You can, but we met some people who did it and they didn't always have the best experience. So we recommend spending a little bit more and just doing the organized tours.
Occasionally.
Yeah,
we do. Mosquitoes. So that concludes this video from Mongolia. That actually concludes all our videos from Mongolia, I think.
We just have 2 days left. Tomorrow we're going to take the bus to Ulaanbaatar, and the day after we're going to take the train to Beijing to finally arrive at our final destination from Brussels to Beijing. It will not be the end of our trip. We'll make another video about what we're going to do.
Yeah, we have some plans for the next part of the trip coming up, which we think could be fairly interesting to watch as well. But not going to spoil anything. You'll have to watch the next videos. When we get to Beijing, we will reveal that.
We hope this video has been useful for you to get insight into the cost of travel from Mongolia.
If you have any questions,
comment below, leave a like. If you want to follow our adventure, please subscribe. We're going to travel to Beijing and then mainland China, and then afterwards...
Now when you say like travel to Beijing doesn't sound so impressive anymore, because I mean it's like a few thousand
kilometers. When we were in
kilometers.
Brussels it was still 12,000 kilometers, now just less than 2,000.
We're almost there, but there's good stuff coming after that as well, so make sure to hit the subscribe button.
Anyway, in our following video we will go to Beijing.
Yes.
See you in the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.